I have yet to see any feminine energy or masculine energy advice that is for catering to the needs and weaknesses and strengths that are going to be present in either your natal chart or your partner's natal chart. So here we go. I have had the very strange pattern in my life that my last 3 long-term partners were all Capricorns, which is really interesting. I kind of fell into being provided for with the partner that I had before my current husband. She is one that I had between my first husband and my now husband. And even though she was not identified as a man, she was a Capricorn. My first husband was a Capricorn. My partner I had between husbands was a Capricorn, and my current husband is a Capricorn. And astrology is interesting because you can look just at yourself, and you can also look at patterns amongst whole families. There are placements that can repeat themselves generation after generation within the same family. So the Capricorn is the father figure in the zodiac. And it would make sense that if, for whatever reason, I'm in the position where I kind of just stumble into being provided for, I have this strange pattern in my life where Capricorn after Capricorn keeps popping up. And it was a pattern to be found in their astrological chart, not even in their gender. They are 3 different genders. My first husband is a cis man. The partner I had between husbands is a trans woman, and my current husband is a non-binary man. So that's an interesting thing to think about when thinking about feminine and masculine energy, because it can be hard to remember about those energies separate from the gender you identify with and whatever is in your pants. And it's a good thing to look at, so we can remember that. Good feminine energy content will remind you that feminine energy is something men or women can have. It has nothing to do with gender, and there are plenty of things that are stereotypically masculine in our culture that are actually feminine energy, and vice versa. Now, something that I had a little trouble with when I was getting into astrology and tarot and all that for the first time was that, at least in this edition of the tarot, I have the sun and the moon, which, you know, are one of the pairs of archetypical male and female energy cards in the deck. It paints a pretty negative image of feminine energy, and it offended me at the time, but I've come to be much more comfortable with it. And the good thing about astrology is that in astrology, all attributes are both good and bad. So even if you see something in your chart that seems really negative, there is some way that it is also good. So if we want to look at these 2 cards, so I'll zoom in. This is the sun. You can see pretty clearly from the illustration, it represents clarity. You know, beyond that, to me, it looks like divine revelation from God handed down to you on a golden platter, accompanied even with the singing of angels. And then the moon card, I think that the meaning is a little less clear here. I can definitely see that it represents darkness and the occult, and I know those are associated with the moon. But another thing that this card represents in this deck is confusion and delusion, and those are very negative things, and I thought they were I thought it was an offensive thing, like it was just relating to how women are crazy, and it felt very misogynist to me. But one example of how confusion and delusion is a great thing, and it's something we experience every day, is when we dream. Every night that we dream, we don't have a grasp on reality. We don't understand that what we're seeing isn't real, unless you're lucid dreaming. And there's nothing wrong with dreaming. And, you know, this can even be something for us to remember in our manifesting, because science today actually says that what we see with our eyes is not even reality. We have our beliefs in our head, and whatever we see or experience with any other sense that aligns with our beliefs, we bring that perception to the front of our minds. And anything we perceive that does not align with what we believe to be true, we throw it out before we've even noticed that we perceive it. That's how the red car effect works, which is something I've brought up before as, you know, one of the ways that manifesting works scientifically. So the Capricorn is the father symbol, and these three people had a similar role in my life, even though they had three different genders. And, you know, that's always a good reminder that that being a provider has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. And my first husband had a Capricorn sun, but his placements were also all over the place. And I would think generally in astrology, this means you're a balanced person. With him knowing the guy, I kind of think of it as he's mixed up. Now with my current husband, he is a 5-planet Capricorn. He is so darn Capricorn. He, his whole life has always been looked to as the leader, like in circles of friends. They always look to him to make the decisions about what they're doing for the evening. It has been something that has extended beyond just his relations between him and other women. And there's a little conflict in there with how this has related to his Scorpio rising, which I'll talk about in the next video. You know, Capricorn also is tradition, but Scorpio is transformation. So there's a little bit of conflict there in his chart. He's had a little bit of struggle with feeling uncomfortable with always being put in this very traditional, I'm a man, even though he doesn't identify as a binary man. Also, as a Capricorn, 5-planet Capricorn, he is very earth energy, or earth sign heavy. So part of the attributes of earth signs is that they are very logical, they're not very emotional, they're very fact-based, and they're very practical. So I find that feminine energy advice is actually particularly helpful with him, because if I try to have a logical argument, you know, it really gets him into very much the logical place. And when a man is in his logical mindset, he starts thinking about what's fair, and it brings him to wanting 50-50. So what you need to do as someone who is inspiring the masculine energy in a man is to try to not let him be in that logical place so much. So you don't get things from him by explaining to him all the reasons why you should be getting that from him. It's not going to work. Now, me as a Scorpio, and I'm a 4-planet Scorpio, so I'm also very Scorpio. I am water sign heavy. Water signs are emotional. So It could be that when I am trying to have these logical discussions with my husband, it's particularly not going to work out, because even when I'm trying to be logical, I might very well seem like a big emotional wreck, at least compared to a Capricorn who is so logical. It's also caused some conflict in our marriage where when he has a feeling that comes out of nowhere, as feelings sometimes do, and also as he should expect, as he has had more trauma than I did in my past. He could be talking way more about having PTSD than I do, but he doesn't. As a Capricorn, he when he has a big feeling, he wants to immediately attribute it to something in reality. He wants to think it's real. He wants to think that if he's feeling some way, there is a reason, that it's not coming out of nowhere. And this has led to him not knowing where it's coming from. So the first thing he sees is me not doing something he wants, and so he blames it on that. I, as a Scorpio, a more emotional being, know that sometimes you just have feelings. Sometimes you're just mad, you don't know where it came from. Sometimes you're sad, you don't know where it came from. He doesn't understand that. Now, I could think about this from a more scientific angle, or, just using popular language that people use a lot today. He's emotionally immature, he's unaware of himself. But that puts me in a logical headspace too, which can prevent me from being so much in my pleasure, in my playful state that's going to be best for keeping me in my feminine energy. So something that can be helpful for me is actually thinking about this from an astrological point of view. Oh, he's a Capricorn, so that's why he doesn't understand his feelings, or he's convinced that he doesn't have feelings, which is how it really feels for me sometimes. And saying, oh, he's a Capricorn, can make it feel much more light and not so heavy and serious. And not like, oh, he's a bad person because he doesn't understand himself and he just blames things on other people. He's emotionally immature. He needs to grow up. He needs to not be expecting the woman to do all this emotional labor for him. It can make it a little lighter. Another thing about him being a Capricorn and me being a Scorpio is that we are both very serious and very stubborn. So, I might need a tool anyways for me to see the lighter side of, oh, he's just having some feelings today, instead of thinking it's a great big deal. Another thing is that Capricorns and Scorpios are sextile, so we are a harmonious degree in astrology, which makes us more compatible. But there's always good sides and bad sides, right? So the sign that's opposite of Capricorn, opposites have opposing energy, they're going to be not so harmonious, is Cancer. Cancer is the mother in the zodiac. So a Capricorn can also do well with a Cancer, who is going to be, the other half of a whole.